Hello, everyone. We are live on stage 2 for our first talk of the day. Before we bring in our speaker, just a little bit of housekeeping since we're all logging in to hop in for the first time today. Take a moment to update your profile. If you have any questions whatsoever, make sure that you can click the reception home icon and we can take care of you there. Now, next up, we've got Matt Barrie. He's an award-winning technology entrepreneur and chief executive of ASX listed Freelancer Limited. 12-time Webby award-winning Freelancer.com is the world's largest freelancing and crowdsourcing marketplace by total number of users and projects posted. Matt is also chief executive of Escrow.com, a world leader in secure online payments with over $4 billion in transactions secured. He's won a slew of different awards, been named the most influential person in information technology in Australia by Smart Company in 2014. In 2015, he was named a top 100 most influential engineers in Australia. He holds first-class honors in both electrical engineering and science, a master's in applied finance, and a master's in electrical engineering from Stanford University. We are so excited to have him join us today and give a presentation on the future of work. Before we turn it over to Matt, just so that everyone knows, there will be a Q&A portion at the very end of this session. On the right hand of your screen, you'll see event and stage. If you click on the stage tab, make sure you use @QA so that way we can make sure that we track those questions. So without further ado, off to you, Matt.
Thank you. Famed international investor Mike Milken said recently, the defining characteristic of the 21st century will be the competition for intellectual capital. There's a concept known as replacement rate, and this is the fertility rate to maintain the population globally. And every woman on the planet needs to have 2.1 children to maintain that population. Now, what's happening around the world is fertility rates are dropping massively. And even in a country like Bangladesh, the fertility rate is 1.99, which is below the replacement rate, which is surprising to believe. In some parts of the world, it still is quite higher, and particularly in Africa, you've got fertility rates in the 4s and the 5s. But around the rest of the world, the numbers are much lower, and globally, they are dropping at a very, very rapid rate. A lot of this is due to increasing education levels. In particular, it gives women a lot of choice to pursue a career rather than have a large family, and there's a lot of options. They can start businesses and so forth. This trend is continuing over time. And what's surprising is that parts of Europe and parts of Asia actually have a lower fertility rate than Japan. Where if you look at countries like Portugal, the fertility rate is 1.31. So every woman in Portugal on average will have 1.31 children. Italy 1.30, and in other countries like South Korea is 1.08. So the population is rapidly approaching a decline. In 2011, Japan. And Unicharm, the largest manufacturer of diapers in Japan, announced they sold more adult diapers than baby diapers, which tells you how acute the problem is becoming in some parts of the world. The Five Eyes countries of the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand are well below the replacement rate. The UK is at 1.74 and Australia is at 1.81. At the same time, education as a percentage of supplemental income is also falling quite rapidly in the West. Despite very expensive educational fees, as a whole, supplemental education in the US is only about 2% of disposable income, while in parts of Asia, it's much more highly regarded at about 15%. The other way you can grow human capital by instead of having a lot of children is you can grow up through immigration, and a country that does that, and as a world leader in that, is actually Australia, the country I'm from, where it really has very, very, very high levels of immigration, and we bring in hundreds of thousands of people per year to try and boost the economy and find the skills that we need in order to drive the economy into the future. But despite world record immigration, countries like Australia don't always bring people in the right skill areas. And in fact, if you look over the last decade and a half, the people that have been brought in, you haven't really seen a big improvement in STEM, which is really the skills we need for the building of the future: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. In fact, it's been very flat through the entire period, and the growth that we've had in engineering has mainly been for apartment building, to build apartments for all the people we're bringing in. if you look at areas like computer science, which is really a critical skill for creating the future and future products and services, I mean that actually has been a bit of a train wreck where grads have been down 50% over the years, over the last 15 years. Programming grads down 30%. Artificial intelligence, which is technology which is supposed to really be pivotal for the future, is down 35%. And the whole country only produces 146 domestic computer science PhDs and 20 masters by research grads in the entire country, roughly. And also with COVID, of course, migration globally has really dropped to almost zero or next to nothing. So that approach to kind of bolster human capital is not really viable in today's environment. In the US, there's a similar crisis in STEM, particularly with domestic students, where in 2017, which is the latest data, foreign nationals accounted for 81% of electrical engineering majors and grad students, 79% of computer science, 75% industrial engineering, and so forth. So STEM grads are increasingly as a percentage of American university and college grads, but dwindling a number of those students are actually Americans themselves. So globally, the West actually has a crisis in the skills they need to build the future. And if you go to a country like Japan, where the problem is quite acute, I mean, Japan's sitting on a democratic time bomb. Japan in particular does not do immigration very well at all. And in fact, by ministry estimates, they're already short 500,000 engineers to drive the future. And you can see that the band of working-aged people is actually dropping, while the band of elderly is growing very, very, very strongly. And in fact, the number of maternity hospitals in Japan is at its lowest level in over 4 decades. Only about 59% of Japan's population is of working age, and that population has to support the elderly and also the young. So you can see that they've got a crisis coming that's becoming more and more acute. And in fact, if you project out to the 2050s, Japan is projected to lose 40% of that working age. So it's only 59% of the entire population as is, and that's going to drop down to about 30% of the population. So it's going to be quite a problem. So you can see why Japan's got a lot of research into things like robotics to try and supplement the human capital crisis. Italy and Korea are to lose 20%. Germany's to lose 15% by the 2050s. On the other hand, there's a once-in-a-lifetime boom in many emerging markets countries. And that's where the workers of the future will come from. India is projected to have a 35-year demographic dividend right up to 2055 in exploding numbers of people entering the working age. It's about 14 million a year net going in to the working age in India, and that's growing very, very, very rapidly. In emerging markets as well, you're also seeing an increasingly educated population. I mean, the Philippines is set by 2030 to overtake both the UK, Australia, and the United States in terms of the percentage of the population that actually have a tertiary degree. And you can see countries like Bangladesh and India and so forth are rising quite rapidly behind. So, there's a very, very large working age population in these countries, and they're also well educated. Now, in terms of jobs, McKinsey have forecast that about 160 million jobs, or about 11% of the projected 1.46 billion services jobs worldwide, could, in theory, be carried out remotely, barring any constraints in supply. And as human-computer interaction gets better and better over time, and software is eating the world, and every industry becomes basically digitized and driven by software, that number of jobs is rising. And so increasingly, jobs can be done remotely. And COVID-19 really has just lit the fire and accelerated everything. And it's really the new member of the C-suite responsible for digital transformation. And as of May this year, when the lockdowns really kicked in everywhere around the world, and it looks like we're going to go into that period again as Northern Hemisphere winter comes up, because obviously as a respiratory or really a vascular disease, COVID becomes a lot more vicious as temperature changes to the cold in your environment. I mean, as of May 2020, 94% of the global workforce were living in environments where there were active workforce closure measures. And so COVID's really forcing the great work online experiment. If you look at companies like Deloitte, I mean, this is the largest of the big four, and this is a company that we work with at Freelancer. They generate over 50 billion in revenue, and they have 300,000 staff. And they told us directly, they said, for us to 10 times our business from here, because they're a very services-driven or labor-driven organization, we would need to hire 3 million people. And for an organization to hire 3 million people, that would place them as the largest employer in the world. And so obviously, this is not a feasible approach to growing the business. So global organizations are already scrambling for the scarce talent that's available. We're not making any more people, and the population at some point will decline in the next couple of decades, and our education in the West is becoming a problem. So a lot of the Western corporations are really starting to feel the skills crunch at this point in time. By the end of September 2020, there are about 4.9 billion people on the internet, and 1% of that global internet population, or about 49 million people, are in Freelance.com's network. So this map of the world represents actual geolocated locations of users from our user base. And you can see anywhere there's electricity and internet, we have freelancers in our network. And if you zoom into areas, this is Europe, obviously Asia, and we're just drawing the dots here to represent the locations. And this is the United States. We literally have people everywhere. And so the solution to the global skills shortage is cloud labor. And at Freelancer, we have the world's largest on-demand elastic cloud workforce with 41 million users across 247 countries, regions, and territories in 34 languages and in 39 currencies. This is a map of the world showing the trade flows. The pink is where jobs are being posted. The blue are where jobs are being performed. And the white dots are obviously where the users are. And as you go across the world, you can see some interesting trade flows. And I've got a video actually we rendered today that will show this in a lot more detail for you. And this is over the last 20 years of the company's history. So you'll see the white dots appearing as the users were signing up, and you'll start seeing pink where the jobs are being posted, and the blue where the jobs are being performed. Across the 2000s, you had the BPO revolution, which came into India around the mid-2000s, where large companies were offshoring large, initially unsophisticated functions, but increasingly became more and more sophisticated as companies like Merrill Lynch outsourced PhD research into financial topics with PhDs to places like Bangalore. So late 2000s, emerging markets really started to come online with the Philippines and so forth. The Philippines has now overtaken India for call centers, primarily because of the American accent the Filipinos have compared to the British accent that India has. And then through the internet boom, .com boom, number two, with the Twitters and the Facebook, the rise of Twitter and Facebook and so forth, the whole world really started to come online in a big way. You can see there's a big trade from the US to India, the US to Europe, Europe to Southeast Asia, and so forth. So, and then through 2000, obviously with COVID. So Freelancer is really the partner in your new world of work, and solving $1 trillion problem. There's many companies here that are tackling this. There'll be room for many companies to solve this problem. And what's great about us is we help entrepreneurs on both sides of the equation. We help small business entrepreneurs and large enterprises turn that spark of an idea into reality, while providing opportunity income to freelancers from all around the world, and at the same time helping people create amazing products and services that will make the world a better place. And we've got a 20-year history of growth in both users and projects posted. We get about 20 to 40,000 new users a day signing up, depending on the day of the week, and about 10,000 projects. And we're obviously in a lot of languages, a lot of currencies, and really with also the lowest cost and largest, in addition to the largest cloud labor platform, the fact that it's free to sign up, it's free to post a job, it's free to talk to freelancers, review samples of work, etc. And if you award a freelancer and they accept a job, we effectively generate income from a 10% commission from the freelancer and a small 3% commission from the client. And it's free for freelancers to sign up and bid on projects and so forth. And we work all the way with consumers right up to large enterprises. Over 70% of Fortune 500 now use Freelancer in one way, shape, or form to get work done. And we have no access fees, no sign-up fees, no compulsory or monthly annual subscriptions, no fees to post a project, and we actually waive the 3% commission for volume customers. So effectively, there are no fees, compulsory fees for enterprise to use Freelancer. And we generate our income from the earnings of freelancers as they generate that. that work. And there's two ways of getting work done. You can post a project by setting a title, a budget, a description, and so forth. We're the most liquid market in the world for online labor. 83% of jobs get bid on within 60 seconds. I encourage you to try it if you haven't. And there's another way you can get work done, which is contests, where you put up a prize and people compete for the prize. This, in the case, was a pocket packaging for tea. Had 186 entries. The prize was $260. That's the final outcome. And nowhere in the world is as liquid as we are for contests. 82% of contests get received an entry within 1 hour. And on average, there are 220 entries per contest, and contests start from $10. And we have 1.2 million entries per month and over 12 million entries per year at the moment. And that shows the growth rate. So 12 million, that's not a forward run rate, that's a historical run rate. So moving forward, we'll probably be about 20 million entries in the next 12 months. And companies like Uniqlo use us as a 3D shop design for $200. This is a Fox poster for $100. 3D models, $340. A music app for $100. Product packaging, and so forth. So anything you think of, 1,800 different skill areas. So no job is too small or too big. In the enterprise space, this is an example of, for Deloitte, it's a telecommunications project doing research into telecoms infrastructure in Minnesota, Montana. For Airbus, we're helping revolutionize their manufacturing lines in Toulouse for aerospace engineering, in addition to a whole bunch of different products we've built for them, including pick and pack machines and RFID software for tracking parts in their warehouse facilities. Fujitsu used us to verify solutions, or uses us to verify solutions for a pseudo quantum computer. Using their solver technology, it costs $50,000, and using this Freelancer, for example, the problem was solved for $300 and was within 2.3% of the solution of their solver technology. We work with organizations as large as NASA, who have sourced over 13,000 designs from 6,000 freelancers. They've published a white paper. There's a link at the bottom here, and I'll share this presentation later if you want to read the white paper. But they saw a cost savings across these 13,000 designs of between 80 and 99% compared to traditional methods. I don't know many industries where you get a 99% cost saving, and only 97% were applicable across a wide range of federal space programs. Only 3% were not up to quality. So that's a pretty amazing endorsement. And we've just jointly won a $25 million tender to get more deeply in solving complex problems that the astronauts face. We've helped the US Department of Energy figure out how to bring manufacturing back to the US with a whole range of different solutions, including radiation leak detectors and fuel cell designs and so forth. Novo Nordisk with solving problems in healthcare to defeat serious chronic conditions. With Deloitte, we've built a version of Freelancer which powers Deloitte internally. So Deloitte consultants can hire other Deloitte consultants. It's called My Gigs. We're now in the process of onboarding 50,000 users within Deloitte. We're about halfway there, and over 100,000 hours have gone through. Deloitte have publicly said that success for us is 20% of all US consulting projects going from Deloitte to Deloitte, and 10% of all US consulting projects going from Deloitte to the cloud into our network of freelancers. We built a custom version of Freelance for Arrow Electronics. We loaded in 500,000 electrical engineers. They loaded in their top design houses around the world, and now it's a custom marketplace for building electronics and electronic and electrical products, where you can get an idea prototyped, designed, targeted for a particular cost footprint and size footprint, with the expertise of Arrow to help you in terms of subject matter experts, firmware, software, hardware, drivers, integrated circuits, right through to mass manufacturing in one place. With Arrow, we've worked with IBM, and we have a team that's out there to help you really all the way through the journey. We've got recruiters who will help you find the best freelancer and guarantee the placement. I mean, we give that away for free, or it's $9 in many cases. And we've got co-pilots, which will act like a technical co-founder or a project manager and really run the whole project for you. They'll run weekly sprints. They'll log tickets. They'll communicate with all the freelancers. And really, you don't have to be around. The project will keep running without you having to be there to involved to run it. We also have an API which allows you to task humans through software. So why would you build a complex infrastructure for human service delivery when you can make an API call to the cloud? This is like Twilio. You don't build your own telephony infrastructure. You make an API call to send an SMS or make a phone call. Now you can do that, getting people to do things. And we've got an incredible app we're about to release as a demonstrator of this, where we've basically built an Uber for photography. So you can type in any location in the world and someone will go take a photo and send it back to you within 24 hours. And it's amazing. And in fact, we've scaled this right up to the fleet level. And so we have basically software now that large enterprises can task huge fleets of people to do things like computer repairs, maintenance, install and maintain 5G base stations for network infrastructure globally. Obviously, that's a big challenge now with COVID, with network engineers not being able to travel around and so forth, and so on. I've got a little video to show what we've done for a global computer company out of the US, starting in Indonesia. Today, it went live in India, going to China, going to Europe and Australia in the next 2 or 3 months, and going to the world after that. Freelancer Global Fleet.
Freelancer Global Fleet delivers expertise anywhere in the world, at scale, on demand. Freelancer Global Fleet is leading the way with innovative field services in Jakarta in 2020. Freelancer.com is leading the way with Freelancer Global Fleet by helping its customers with in-home laptop repairs, on-site and on demand. This innovative service allows customers to contact a service center to troubleshoot any of their computer issues over the phone, while also discussing a quotation and a convenient time to repair the computer in the comfort of the customer's home. The process includes: the customer contacts a service center to discuss the computer problem. The service team member then creates a job ticket and posts the project on Freelancer.com's Global Fleet platform, where a Freelancer staff member assists with assigning a qualified Freelancer technician to complete the project. A certified freelancer accepts the job and contacts the customer to further discuss the issue and a convenient time to repair the computer at the customer's home. The certified freelancer then collects the parts required from the warehouse and then repairs the laptop on-site in the customer's home. The customer signs an acceptance form to confirm the job is complete. The service center contacts the customer to see how the project went, and the customer leaves a review. Freelancer Global Fleet delivers expertise anywhere in the world, at scale, on demand. Visit Freelancer Global Fleet to find out more information.
Right, thank you. I open the floor for Q&A.
Hello, everyone. We've got a question from Doris. Matt, what do you consider as the key drivers for sustainable remote cloud jobs past COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, I don't think much is needed to sustain them. I mean, I think you know, if the closest experience we've had to COVID-19 has been the global financial crisis, where you know, you had a situation where you had a lot of people out of work looking for jobs online. You had a lot of businesses looking to cut costs and find new ways of doing things. And in addition to that, you had a lot of new business formation happening, where people were in between jobs going, you know what, under the current climate, I'll maybe take a few months off. I'll try and start that startup I always wanted to start. And if it doesn't work out, I'll get a job later on. Now, COVID-19 is GFC to the power of 10. You've obviously got a lot of people who are out of work looking for jobs because the type of work they do at the moment is unavailable, particularly if they're in local service industries and so forth. You have got a lot of businesses now looking to cut costs and find more efficient ways of doing things, and also looking to hire online because they simply don't want people turning up to their premises who might potentially be sick. And then you've got a huge amount of new venture creation happening right now as well, where people are starting all sorts of businesses, whether they be e-commerce websites, Shopify sites, apps. A lot of people are trading online and getting freelancers to develop algorithms and so forth. So I don't think much is going to be needed to drive a long-term view around working from home. I mean, the whole workforce globally is tried working from home. The tools, they've adapted to the tools. They've certain advantages and disadvantages from working from home. But no matter what happens, even if tomorrow magically, if everyone was cured of COVID and the disease went away, you're not going to get everyone back to the office like you did before, and workforces will continue to be flexible. So I think it's a long way to go.
Thank you. I noticed from the visualization that you shared, a lot of folks are really enjoying it. Is that anywhere online where they can download it or reshare it via social media?
It is. It's on our YouTube channel. I also tweeted it. My handle is at Matt_Barrie, Barrie. I tweeted it early today, and I will put my presentation on my Twitter feed and give it to you guys to circulate it as well.
That's great. One of the takeaways I had from that visualization was just seeing the boom in growth after 2008, 2009. Were there any kind of direct correlations due to the financial recession and kind of a result from corporations trying to tighten their bottom line?
There were two major forces. The first was the global financial crisis. The second was the internet went to emerging markets. So in countries like the Philippines, I think around 2008, there were 8 million people with Facebook accounts. In 2009, there were 35 million people with Facebook accounts, right? So that was when the internet really started to take off in places like the Philippines, Bangladesh, Vietnam, etc., all through Southeast Asia and so on. So they were large numbers of people coming online who spoke English, getting skilled up, trained up, and wanting to generate income online.
And speaking of the Philippines, I know that you noted briefly it's also because of their language abilities and different accents. But was there anything that the country specifically did to kind of drive that focus on freelancer, cloud-based employment? I know there's a lot of countries, specifically in Eastern Europe, that still have the same lower cost of living, similar to countries like the Philippines, but haven't grown to the heights like Bangladesh and the Philippines and India have.
Yeah. So Philippines did a few things. One is the huge focus on education. So something like 24% of the workforce today have a tertiary degree, and as I said before, that's going to overtake Australia and the UK in the next 10 years. So there's a highly educated workforce. The other was they created special economic zones under a thing called PEZA, where it became very cost effective for companies globally to offshore or outsource to the Philippines. So a lot of proactive action by the government, both around education, also around the financial incentives to do business in the Philippines.
Very cool. We've got a question from the audience. Is the co-pilot also from the freelance pool or directly employed with Freelancer?
They're directly employed by us and trained by us internally as full-time employees, and we have them operating globally in every time zone. So you can simply tell them, this is what I want to do. They will work with the recruiters to build a team for you. They'll write a spec for you. They will help you make technical decisions. They will run weekly sprints. They will log tickets and put them into an issue tracking system, and they'll communicate and report to you as often as you want, and include you in conference calls as often as you want. So they'll really take all the load off your shoulders.
That's great. One of the questions I had personally was, I know that there's a lot of jobs that couldn't technically be done remote. Now with you're rolling out these new initiatives, like how do you see 5G having an impact? Because here in the States, I know elsewhere around the world, not everyone has direct access to like hardwired bandwidth. So any thoughts or takeaways on how, I hear a lot about Internet of Things, or hear about these crazy stories of doctors performing surgery like hundreds of miles away. Like, what's your take on that?
I got 5G yesterday. So I actually turned it on yesterday. It's national in Australia. It's super quick. In fact, what it's going to do potentially, and it certainly looks like it's going to do it in Australia, it's going to make the wired connection for broadband to your home obsolete. So we've just spent $47 billion deploying this network infrastructure, connecting everyone's homes up to a high-speed broadband, and the speed on my phone now blows it away. So just like you disconnected the home phone when you got your mobile, you're probably going to disconnect your home internet connection, the fixed line home internet connection, and replace it with 5G. So what that means is it's going to be a lot more equal opportunity for everyone all around the world. Human-computer interaction is getting better and better and better. Software's eating the world, and you would be surprised that a lot of jobs you didn't think you could do remotely, you probably will be able to do in the future, because there's a big boom happening in robotics. And if anyone's seen Avatar, there's probably going to be a whole bunch of applications where people will be manipulating things in the physical world and doing blue collar jobs using robotics and so forth in the future. And so anyone who's checked out the videos from Boston Dynamics on their YouTube channel, it's pretty amazing. You've got humanoid robots doing parkour now. So I think increasingly you're going to see more and more and more jobs go into the cloud, not just white collar jobs, but also blue collar jobs.